Things not seen day 5. Searching for Bobby Phillips. I think Mom is nuts. When the lady from Children and Family Services stops talking to Mrs. Trent, she gets in her car and drives away. Then Mom has this frantic phone conversation with Aunt Ethel. And the second she hangs up, she starts barking orders at me. Robert, clean up your room. Put all your clothes away. Put all your books back on the shelves. Pack up your trumpet and put it on your closet shelf. Get your toothbrush out of the bathroom and put it with the cleaning supplies under the sink. And toss your telephone this morning down the back stairs. Make your bed and be sure your electric blanket is turned off. Make your room look like no one has been there for days. Now, move it. Then she runs into the kitchen and starts washing the breakfast and lunch dishes like a maniac, doing them by hand and stacking them away instead of putting them into the dishwasher. I'm halfway done with my room when Mom yells up the back stairs at me. Bobby, think carefully. Did you send any emails or AOL messages since Wednesday? I think. Then how back? Nope, I talked to Alicia on the phone a couple times, but that's it. Good. As soon as you're done, I want you to run down to the laundry room and get all the rest of your clothes. Fold the dirty ones neatly and put them away in your drawers too. Hurry. Hey, Mom, really, lighten up a little. Bobby, I don't want any discussion. If I'm wrong about this, then that'll be wonderful. But for now, keep working. I think Mom is crazy. Until 40 minutes later when the lady comes back. Her blue sedan stops at the curb and then 2 Chicago cop cars pull up behind her. 3 officers get out, 2 men and a woman. Mrs. Paget is at the door with the officers, and after Mom reads the search warrant, she walks into the den and calls Dad and then our lawyer, Charles Clark. Mr. Clark arrives in 5 minutes, but he doesn't do anything except read the warrant and tell Mom that everything's in order. What's this all about, Emily? Miss Paget is standing right there, so Mom says, Nothing, Charlie. It's about nothing, and I'll call you later, okay? Thanks a lot for coming so quickly. And the lawyer shakes his head, smiles, and leaves. Miss Paget is enjoying herself. This is round 2, and Mom is getting beat up good. The 3 police officers fan out. 2 go up, and 1 stays down with the social worker. I follow the man and the woman who go upstairs. They open the doors to all the rooms, figure out right away which one is mine, and then go in. I'm glad Mom is so smart. She called this one right. My room looks empty, cleared out. They open the closet, they open every drawer, they look under the bed. I'm out in the hall watching. They're being careful, not trashing the place, not making a mess, which is good. My room's neater than it's been in about 3 years, and I don't want to have to clean it up again. They go to the hall bathroom. No toothbrush, no wet towels. There's a comb by the sink, but they don't focus on it. They check every room, every closet, every cabinet. They open every drawer. They shine their long black flashlights into every space big enough to hide a kid about my size. They trudge up the attic stairs, poke around, and then track dark dust onto the hall carpet when they come down again. When they're done, I follow them down the back stairs to the kitchen, but I don't go down to the basement with them. In the den, Mom is sitting at the desk doing her best to ignore the suit woman, but the lady is pushing. Mrs. Phillips, I must insist that you tell me where in Florida you have sent your son. Failure to freely offer information will not be viewed favorably. Mom isn't even trying to smile now. The terms of your search warrant are quite clear. You have permission to make a superficial survey of the premises in order to see if my son is here, which, as I had already told you, he is not. It is you, in collusion with some other misguided souls, who have chosen to make this a formal matter and create this legal situation. As far as I'm concerned, however, this is still a family matter over which you and the state of Illinois have no jurisdiction whatsoever. I am not under any obligation to tell you one thing more. I already told you that he has gone to Florida to stay with a relative while he recovers from a recent illness. We are withdrawing him from school, which we have every right to do, and I have nothing more to say. Maybe you can comment on this. Your neighbor, Mrs. Trent, tells us that while you and your husband were in the hospital, a person referred to as Aunt Ethel was here taking care of Bobby. Is this true? Mom's annoyed about Mrs. Trent getting involved, but she says, yes, that is correct. And is this the same Aunt Ethel whose telephone number is on the list on the wall by your kitchen telephone? After a pause, Mom says, yes. She's mad at herself for not taking that list off the wall. I can see where Miss Paget is going, and so can Mom. Since I noticed that this Aunt Ethel is the only person on your list with a South Florida area code, I know you won't mind if we give her a call just to see if Bobby is there. And if he does happen to be there, then my agency will exercise our reciprocal child protection agreements with the state of Florida. All that means is that an officer will stop by your relative's home to confirm that Bobby is indeed there and that he is all right. Remember, that is our only aim here, Mrs. Phillips. We are only interested in answering one basic question. Is Bobby getting proper care, and is he well? Mom is done talking. She stands up and looks out the tall window. Then she picks up the remote control for the shelf radio, punches it, and the room fills up with graceful music, Mozart or something. Miss Paget starts to say something else, but Mom is pushing the volume button. The small radio has a big voice. The woman police officer comes to the door of the den and talks into Mrs. Paget's ear. Miss Paget turns to Mom. She has to shout above the sound of a dozen violins and harpsichord. We've concluded our search. Just for the record, Mrs. Phillips, if Bobby has not located and talked to by someone associated by my department within the next 5 days, then this becomes a police matter. Bobby will be classified as a missing juvenile under suspicious circumstances. You and your husband may be held liable, and in that case you will both face criminal charges. Thank you. Then she turns and leaves. I know my mom swears once in a while, like if she burns her hand on a pan or if her computer freezes when she's trying to print something, but when that social worker and the cops leave the house, Mom cuts loose. The A word, she shouts it. The B word, Mom shakes her fist and hisses that one. She stomps around the first floor of the house, legs stiff, face red, and she works her way through the entire alphabet of swear words, including some stuff I've never heard anyone say before. Deep down, I guess I always suspected Mom was a real human being, but I didn't know she was this real, and I didn't know anyone could get this angry, and I'm glad she's on my side. When she quiets down, she slumps onto the couch in the TV room and puts her face in her hands, breathing hard. I sit down too, and she feels the couch move. She drops her hands and looks in my direction. She smiles weakly and says, "Sorry, I lost my temper." Not very ladylike. I don't know what to say. I wish you could see me, because then all I'd need to do is nod and smile a little. But I have to say something, so I say, "They deserve it." Mom shakes her head. "No, they don't. Not really. And that's what's so frustrating. These aren't bad people. They're just doing their job, and they sincerely believe that a boy is missing. That something is wrong. Well, something is wrong. It's just not what they think." Mom nods. "Right. So what happens now?" Mom shrugs. "You heard the lady. She said we have 5 days to show them that our son is alive and well. But what if I stay this way and we can't figure it out? I mean, we've already had 3 weeks. What if 5 more days isn't enough? Then your dad and I will have to deal with the law. Can they arrest you? If they can stop in here with 3 police officers and paw through our house, what do you think?" Before I can answer, Dad comes in the side door and calls, "Em, Bobby?" "In here, Dad." First thing, Dad gives Mom a hug and then takes a long look into her face. "So, it was that bad, eh?" Mom says, "Yes, it's not good. The case officer is building up evidence that Bobby is missing, and she plans to send someone to Florida to bang on Aunt Ethel's door, and they'll no doubt have a search warrant." I cut in, "Guys, you know it might be time to just tell them what's really going on. You haven't done anything wrong. This is my problem, and they're trying to stick the blame on you." Dad turns his head towards my voice and says, "I know what you're saying, Bobby, and your mom and I appreciate it, but I don't think that's a good idea. If we invite the state to step in, they'll jump in with both feet. The health authorities would have a field day with this. They'd get a hold of you, and they'd never let go. They'd categorize your condition and then just take over, probably treat it as a contagious disease, or maybe a disability. That stops me cold. I have a disability? The way I am, it's like being paralyzed or blind." Dad continues, "They'd take you to a hospital or a research facility, and God knows we'd ever get you back. And I'm not going to let them break up our family. But if they arrest my mom and dad, that's breaking up the family too. And I bet I'd like a research facility a lot more than you'd like the Cook County Jail." And right away I see I shouldn't have said that about the Cook County Jail, because this jolt of fear shoots across their faces, both of them. And it's not like when I was at home alone feeling afraid of the dark. This is a real threat. The Cook County Jail is a bad place, and I see the fear settle into Dad's eyes, watch it pull at the corners of Mom's mouth. Looking at their faces, I know I'm not going to let them get arrested and dragged off to jail. That's not going to happen, no matter what. Not to my mom and dad. The lady said we have 5 whole days. A lot can happen in 5 days. It'll have to. Chapter 17, Connections. An hour or so after the cops leave, Dad's on his way back to work, and I'm in the kitchen after lunch with Mom, and the phone rings. I pick it up, but before I say a word, Mom grabs the floating receiver out of the air. "Hello? No, I'm sorry, Bobby isn't here. He's visiting some relatives in Florida, and I'm not sure when he'll be back. I'll tell him to give you a call the next time I talk to him. Goodbye." She hangs up and turns to me, cold and serious. "Don't answer the phone, Bobby. If Dad isn't around or if I'm not home, just let it ring. Do you understand?" "Oh, right, in case it's that lady calling." Mom nods. "Or Mrs. Trent, or the school, or just about anybody. You can't use the phone at all. And if you send any emails, erase your tracks." I tilt my head and stare at her in disbelief, which has no effect because she can't tell I'm doing it. I have no body language. "What, like, you think they're going to tap our phones? That's pretty paranoid, Mom." "Maybe, but maybe not. If I was running this investigation and I thought a child might be in danger, I'd sure ask a judge for a wiretap, wouldn't you? All I know is it makes sense to assume the worst." Which is pretty paranoid, like I said. But I put a shrug in my voice and say, "Fine, I won't use the phone." "Who called?" "Alicia." "So I can't talk to her? Because I don't think I could stand that." Mom reaches into her purse and hands me her cell phone. "Use this, and you can give Alicia that number, okay?" I go up to my room and call Alicia. I'm glad she called because I've got this idea. I want to bounce off her. Except it's a pretty wild idea, and I don't want her to think I'm nuts. After she answers, she says, "So how's everything in Florida?" And for a few minutes, I forget about my crazy idea because there's plenty of other stuff to talk about. I say, "Very funny." And then I tell her about the search party. When I'm done, she's not laughing anymore. "The lady really said your mom and dad could go to jail?" "No, not exactly, but she said there could be criminal prosecution, and that means you get arrested, and when you get arrested, they take you to jail. So it's the same thing." She's quiet for a few seconds, then she says, "Guess what book I just finished listening to?" "I don't know, something a little lighter than The Scarlet Letter, like maybe Winnie the Pooh?" "I have no idea." "The Invisible Man" by H.G. Wells. "Oh, and you're reading this because of me, right?" "Of course. I'm deeply honored. So how is it?" "Creepy. I think H.G. Wells has some serious issues. All his books are about wackos who tried to take over the world. This character he made up is a real nutcase. But the part about the man made himself disappear is pretty interesting. You should read it. I'd rather have you give me a summary." "Because you're lazy?" "Right. And because it's hard for me to check books out of the library right now." "Okay, fine. So this half-crazy albino guy feels like a freak, but he's also kind of a genius, and he starts studying light, the way light works. And he gets this idea that if he could make every part of his body reflect light the same way that air does, which is not at all, then his whole body would be as invisible as air, and he could completely be transparent and have all this power. For him, it's all about the power. And he mixes up all the chemicals that can change the way his body reflects light. And he drinks this humanogous drug cocktail, and he feels like he's going to die. And he passes out. And when he wakes up, his body has disappeared. At first, he's happy, but what he finds out is that being invisible is terrible, and that all these ignorant people are scared to death of him, and that makes him even crazier, and he turns into this schizoid, homicidal maniac, and at the end, it takes about 6 men to finally kill him. She pauses, and I don't say anything. "Bobby, so that's the story? You said you wanted a summary. This sounds like a book I really need right now. Discouraging and disturbing, yet so deeply depressing. Thanks so much for sharing. Maybe you should start Alicia's book club. Here's your slogan: books to push you over the edge." She doesn't say anything. So I say, "Sorry. Still, you have to admit that's a pretty depressing story." "But it's not. It's not depressing." I can picture her face, and her intensity surprises me. Because when I was listening to this book, all I could think of was that you are nothing like this guy. You aren't some crazy person trying to prove some big point or become a famous scientist or something. You were nice before this happened, and you're still a good person. It's not like you wanted any of this. It's just an accident. You're innocent, and this other guy's guilty. Plus, he doesn't trust anybody, and that's not like you. This guy is all on his own because he's so selfish. You're not alone like he was. Like your mom and dad, they would go to jail just to keep you safe. You have people who care about you and want to protect you. People like you? That stops her. "Well, yeah." Now she's blushing, I'm sure of it. I say, "You've really thought a lot about this, haven't you?" "In case you haven't noticed, Bobby, I really think about everything. Just because I'm blind doesn't mean I'm stupid." Her sarcasm doesn't bother me anymore. Besides, it's my fault for getting personal. So I say, "I think you're right about this being an accident, but my dad says there's no such thing as an accident. He says there's only cause and effect. So anyway, I got this strange idea this morning, and I want to know if you think it's stupid, okay?" "Sure. You know how when something bad happens, everybody says, 'Of all the people in the world, how come this had to happen to me?' Well, I'm lying on my bed early this morning reading an article in Time magazine about people who have had UFO abduction experiences. And I read that until the media got going on this. All these people, hundreds of them, they all kept quiet about it because they thought it only happened to them. And I look at myself, at all this, and I think, what makes you so sure this is only happening to you? Maybe going invisible has happened to other people too. Maybe lots of people, and everybody is keeping it a secret and thinks he's the only one in the world with this problem." Alicia says, "So you're saying maybe there's this whole squad of other invisible people out there somewhere? That's pretty hard to believe." "Is 5 invisible people harder to believe than just one? Is 5 or 10 or 100 any weirder than one? Okay, think about this. Do you know when you and your dad ever talk about life in outer space?" Alicia snorts. "Are you kidding? My dad's a nut about that. He says because there's life here on Earth, there must be life other places in the universe too. The universe is so huge, he says it's stupid to think that Earth is the only place with intelligent life." "Exactly, because the same things that cause life here probably cause it to happen somewhere else, right? So here I am, and I've gone invisible without trying to, and something had to cause it. And maybe the same causes did it to someone else as well, like life on some other planet. It's not so crazy. I'm trying not to sound too excited about this, but I am." Alicia's not going to just go along with it, though. She says, "Well, maybe it's not crazy, but so what? Let's say you could actually find someone else who's invisible. Then what? What good does that do?" It's good because then we could compare notes. That's why. That's why when scientists do experiments, they do them lots of times to compare the results. I stop and think a second because I want her to see why this could be important. Then I say, okay, when you lost your sight, did the doctors ever talk about other cases like yours? Now she's thinking. Yeah, actually, that was the first thing they did. They looked through this huge database of other patients, scanning for people with the same kind of problems and conditions as mine. They wanted to see what the best treatment would be. Exactly. And did they find any cases like yours? About 50, and that was just in North America. Did it help? Kind of. It confirmed what they already thought. People with my kind of problem can't be helped. Oh, and I remember that information can cut both ways. But that doesn't mean it would be the same for you, Bobby. If we found just one other person, then we compare both cases, and if details start matching up, then you've got some real clues, right? Right, I say. But that's where I hit a brick wall, because if there are others like me, how do we find them? Like find an ad in the newspaper? Having problems with invisibility? Call Bobby and say, so long to your troubles. Alicia giggles. You'd probably get some very strange replies. Right, that's the brick wall. Because even if there was some other person like me, and even if we could find him, what good would it do? Because the cops are still going to crash in here 5 days from now and try to arrest my parents. But it's something to work on, Bobby, and it's not like you've got some other big plan, right? And you can't just sit around and feel sorry for yourself, do nothing for 5 days, right? It's her tone that gets to me. Who said anything about doing nothing? That's what drives me nuts about talking to you sometimes. You twist everything around and run it through a grinder and then shoot it back at me. Sorry you're so sensitive. You brought it up, as I recall, all these invisible people running around the world, right? You asked me if I said it sounded like something worth looking into, and then you turn around and say it's all just pointless? I didn't say it's all pointless. I just have trouble seeing how it makes sense to start hunting around for other invisible people, that's all. So what does make sense to you, Bobby? Right now, nothing makes sense at all. Now she's pushing. Oh, come on, don't do the poor little Bobby routine. Let's get this thing figured out. What are some other ideas? There must be some other ideas, right? No, I really don't have any other ideas. Believe it or not, I just wanted to talk things out a little. Talk to a friend. Remember? Friends, Alicia? Friends are people who... Yeah, she snaps. Yeah, I remember. Don't you start lecturing me. Don't even think about it, Bobby. I've got to go now. And you? You've got to find someone else who wants to sit around and listen to you snivel about everything. Let me know how it all works out, Bobby. Sure, you bet. Go ahead and hang up. Goodbye. I hold the phone on my ear, waiting for her to hang up. She doesn't. I can hear her breathing. Hey, Alicia. What? Thought you had to go. Thought you said goodbye. But then you didn't hang up. Neither did you. Look, Alicia, I know that idea is crazy. Or maybe it's actually a good idea. It's practically the only one I've had so far. I just don't know what to think about anything. That's all. So I'll keep thinking, okay? I'll think about that. I'll think about everything. There has to be something, some idea. Because if there's not, then I might just walk into that lady's office at Child and Family Services tomorrow and plant my butt on her desk and tell her I'm fine, and let her hold my invisible hand and take my pulse. I'll get right up in her face and make her deal with the facts of the case, and just see what happens. Or maybe I'll make her an offer she can't refuse. Maybe haunt her office all day, trash her computer, help her forget about me. Maybe visit her house a couple nights in a row, maybe scare her to death. Or maybe I'll write a juicy suicide note and set things up so my mom and dad are in the clear, and then I can go to my own funeral like Huck Finn did, and then just disappear. I don't know. I just don't know. When I'm done talking, Alicia doesn't say anything. All I hear is breathing. And when she talks, it's her small voice. I know where you are right now, Bobby. I've been there too. I have. And if it hadn't been for Nancy, I'd have probably tried to kill myself or done something else really stupid. Stuff like you're talking about. So I'm going to be your Nancy. I'm not giving up on you, no matter how long it takes for things to get better, or even if things never do get better. And even if you give up on yourself, I'm not giving up on you. And I don't believe you're going to get mean or go crazy or any of that. I just don't believe it, Bobby. I know better. I don't know what to say, but I don't want to stop talking either. After about 5 seconds, Alicia says, Bobby? Yes? Let's hang up now, okay? But you can call me back anytime, or we can get together, like maybe go for a walk or whatever, okay? Anytime? Okay. And don't do anything crazy, all right? I won't. Promise? Yeah, I promise. Good. Talk to you later, Bobby. Okay. Goodbye. We both hang up, but it's like there's still a connection. I can feel it, and it feels good. Chapter 18. Pizza and Puzzles. The dinner is Dad's idea. He calls from work late Monday afternoon and tells Mom that he called Alicia's dad and invited their family to come for pizza at 7:30. Mom squawks, but it's already set up, so we're having a dinner party. Except it's not really a dinner party, it's a meeting about me. The dads finally want to talk deep science about the Bobby situation. The rest of us will have to make the best of it. When the sets of parents get together, it's always risky for the kids. Back at the beginning of fourth grade, I had this friend named Ted. We had fun messing around at school, and he came to my house for an overnight once. Then Mom got the bright idea that his family should come for dinner. Ted's parents were nice people, just not educated like Mom and Dad. Ted's dad ran the parts department at a Ford dealership, and his mom was a secretary at a real estate agency. It was a bad night. Mom wore a black dress and pearls, and she cooked us fancy meal. Dad wore a sport coat and tie, and he was icing down some expensive wine when the doorbell rang. Ted's folks walked in wearing jeans and matching Disney World t-shirts, and they handed Dad a cold six-pack of Miller Lite to help the party along. And that night pretty much ruined my friendship with Ted. But tonight's different. Tonight is more like a science seminar, and under the circumstances, everybody seems pretty comfortable. Except maybe for Mrs. Van Dorn. She doesn't really want to be here. I think she wishes I'd never bumped into Alicia. She shakes Mom's hand, and they look like they can survive the evening together, but I don't see a great friendship in their future. Mrs. Van Dorn is only a little taller than Alicia, so my mom makes her look tiny. She's got narrow shoulders and slender arms with delicate wrists, graceful hands with long, thin fingers. She's not as pretty as Alicia, but she might have been about 25 years ago. Her hair is longer than Alicia's, and she pulls it back from her face with a comb on each side. It's about the same shade of brown. There's a strength in the way she carries herself, but she never seems to relax, never lets down her guard. Alicia seems so much more self-confident than her mom, and I think Alicia must get some of that from her dad, because the professor is way off in his own orbit, out where it doesn't matter how crazy your hair looks. The U of C has a killer astronomy department, and this guy is way out on the front edge. He's only in the door 3 seconds before he starts spouting some theory about spectral analysis and the refractive indices of protein substances, and he's carrying a big box full of books and papers. Dad nods as the professor talks, and then he flips out some chunks of jargon. And all the while, they're both peering at the well-dressed young man who's got no hands or head poking out of his flannel shirt, which is me. And I'm thinking it's going to be a long night, and the slightly embarrassed look on Alicia's face tells me she agrees. Still, it's hard to ruin pizza and root beer and ice cream, and once the eating starts, things loosen up. During dinner, everyone is careful not to talk about Bobby, the missing person, or the cops, or jail time. So there's nothing to do but chat and try to be happy. Mom and Mrs. Van Dorn, who has now become Julia, discovered that they both went to Northwestern and both majored in English literature. So they're in academic heaven, talking about this professor and that course, this novel and that poem, and all of a sudden I'm afraid that they might turn into good friends after all, because I bet that having moms be pals is almost as tough as kids as having moms who can't stand each other. So after dinner, the dads are in the front parlor with the French doors closed, leaning over a big round table, each scribbling away on pads of yellow paper, spinning out theories like madmen. Dad has his collection of books and articles spread out on a card table within easy reach. I look through the glass door, and I can see my file folder there on the corner of the card table, my timeline, and the list of stuff in my room. It looks like they've got a long night ahead of them. Alicia and I are sitting on the floor at the living room coffee table, and we're done with our pizza. The moms are sitting on the couch, jumping up every few minutes to pull a favorite book off the shelves, laughing and impressing each other with their deep mutual love of literature. And I whisper to Alicia, "Let's go online, okay?" And she nods, as eager to escape as I am. Mom glances at me as we stand up. She reads my mind, which is sometimes she's too good at, and says, "Remember, Bobby, if you send any email, erase your tracks from the hard disk when you're done." It's a lot quieter in the study. I help Alicia to a chair beside the desk. The computer starts humming, and I ask, "Do you use the net much? It's pretty visual." Alicia pulls her legs up under her on the chair. I've got some pretty good voice and text software, and I'm going to learn how to use those Braille readers. But sites like National Public Radio and news sites have a lot of audio, plus music sites. But when I need to get information, I usually need a guide. At the library, I can get a reference assistant. And as a last resort, my mom always will help. Last resort, huh? Very last. Does your mom work? Alicia makes a face. Yeah, she works on me. I'm her big job. She used to work for a public relations company, did a lot of traveling to New York and LA. Now she does a little writing and a little consulting and a lot of looking after Alicia. Unexpected career change. If I get independent enough, she can go back to work without feeling guilty all the time. That's my big goal. Then maybe I can stop feeling guilty about ruining her life. I feel like I should say something more, but I don't want her to get mad, and she's already in a half-rotten mood. So I say I've got a search engine open. Pick a topic. That's easy. Type invisible people. I plug it in and hit return. Geez, you're not going to believe this. Alicia leans forward in her chair. Try me. The search invisible people hits on 450,623 pages. No way. Read some. Okay, here's the first one. The Invisible People Club. It's a joke site. They've got a picture here with a list of gag names, and the picture frame is empty. Big yucks. Then there's one, more like 10 pages, about a tribe in Brazil called the Invisible People. Here's some stuff about women's rights, the homeless, street people, a rock group called Invisible People, some comic books, CIA spies, computer privacy. Now I'm jumping ahead about 6 screen loads, and there's stuff about UFOs, Eastern religion, and so on and so on and so on. Endless and weird. How about if you just search for invisibility? Okay, here we are. Invisibility. Fewer pages, but still a lot, like over 108,000. And more interesting stuff. Here's one about scientists in Texas who are injecting fluids into rats to see if they can make skin transparent so they can do the same to people one day. They want to look at your guts without cutting you open. Nice. And it works, except the stuff they use might be poison. And that's not a joke. Very real. There are newspaper articles and everything. Then there's the stealth bomber, ancient Hindu spells, reincarnation, internet shopping, privacy issues, more comic books, spiritualism. Here's a page called The Invisibility of God, and tons about ghosts, alien abductions, all kinds of stuff. Whoa, what? This site is called Human Spontaneous Involuntary Invisibility. It's an essay by a lady, and she's serious. She says she's talked to a lot of people who apparently just stopped being visible to others around them. Sometimes for a few minutes, sometimes longer, and other people can't see them or hear them. That's so weird. Alicia giggles. Look who's talking. Right, but this stuff is all, like, mystical. What are we talking about on the phone today? I was talking about reality, real people, not a bunch of hocus pocus. And what makes you so sure that science is so reliable, or that the university crowd has any better answers than the hocus pocus gang? Me? Sure? I'm not sure about anything. I'm just saying that this stuff I'm reading about here is all chat. It's people telling this lady what happened to them, and then she writes about it and wonders out loud. She's not saying she ever actually saw anyone in that condition. Like my dad, the scientist, says, he points at me. This is an event. I'm right here, and my matter isn't reflecting or refracting any light. What's happening to me isn't hearsay or rumor or theory. So I guess that's why I'm not into the abracadabra scene. I'm an event. And out of the corner of my ear, I hear myself. I'm being very logical, like Dad. Pretty scary. And the logic is working because Alicia's agreeing with me. So apparently no one else who's had an event like yours is advertising it on the net tonight. That's the way it looks. But invisibility is an idea that's out there in a big way. People are into this. This hypnotist, the one who's writing about these people who claim they've gone invisible, she says people have been working at becoming invisible since about 700 BC. Listen to this from some ancient writer in India. Concentration and meditation can make the body imperceptible to other men. In a direct contact with the light of the eyes no longer existing, the body disappears. That's what's happening to me, except I didn't sit around chanting or praying. I just went to bed, and when I got up, all gone. The computers keep humming, and the two of us sit there, silently thinking together. Bobby, Emily, it's Dad yelling. Dad's tone of voice makes us all rush for the parlor. Mom and Mrs. Van Dorn get to the front of the house before Alicia and I do. Dad's on his feet pacing, and when Alicia and I get there, he stops and looks at me. I feel really stupid, Bobby. I didn't pay attention to the information about your room. And then 5 minutes ago, I mentioned it to Leo, and he takes one look at your data charts, and bingo, he hits on something. Dad's beaming at me, but he's too excited to stop for more than a second. He turns to Mom. Now, Emily, I'd like you and Julia to go up to Bobby's room and get his electric blanket, the blanket itself, and the controller and all the wires. And don't bang the controller or drop it, all right? And Bobby, I want you to go down to the basement and find my old oscilloscope. Leo and I will try to find something else we need, which I think is in the kitchen. Okay, let's go. And everyone scatters for the treasure hunt. Find Dad's old oscilloscope. That's not a job. It's more like a career, because our basement, Alicia follows me halfway down the stairs. You better stop here, I'd say, and she does. Okay, the oscilloscope is a boxy thing on about as big as a small suitcase. Has a round green screen on one end, and there are wires and knobs and switches all over it. In most basements, not a problem. Down here, big problem. This basement is the kind of place archaeologists dream about. I'm looking at a 20-year history of the technological revolution in America. Alicia sits down on the steps. What do you mean? I mean, our basement is a high-tech junkyard because my dad can't bear to throw anything away, especially not something electronic. That's because if you're smart enough, you can look at anything and think of 20 or 30 possible ways that it might be useful at some point in the future. So you just keep it. Now I'm picking my way around the heaps and piles and sagging shelves. I'm looking around and I see about 12 different generations of CPUs, 3 or 4 black and white monitors, 2 old color monitors, an original Macintosh, 6 different computer game systems, an ancient tube radio, a little box of broken Walkman tape players and radios, 3 fax machines, a bin of outdated telephones and cell phones and beepers, and 4 TVs. And hiding here between the shipping box for an ancient IBM wheel printer, the oscilloscope. Got it. It's heavy. And as I move to the stairs with it, Alicia gets to her feet, and I follow her up to the kitchen. Dad and Leo are pawing through a mound of paper on the breakfast table, the contents of 3 or 4 fat folders from the cabinet above the wall oven. That's where Dad sticks the information sheets and the instruction booklets and the warranty information whenever we buy something. So there are instruction manuals in there for everything from the garbage disposal to the new inkjet printer to the bike I got for Christmas when I was 7. And Leo grabs something and holds it up. This is it. It's the information that came with my electric blanket when it was new. Leo's excited now, flipping through the stapled pages. And we're in luck. Here's the schematic diagram. Alicia makes a face. What's that? Dad's looking over Leo's shoulder, and he says, the schematic diagram shows the electrical details. It's like a map of how the electricity flows, and it shows impedance and resistance, the voltage at different points, any motors or capacitors, transformers or resistors, things like that. One of Dad's degrees is in electrical engineering. Alicia nods, and I can tell from her face that she's into the spirit of the hunt, tilting her head to listen as Dad starts rooting through the kitchen junk drawer. With a little aha, he grabs a small screwdriver set and says, I think we have everything now. Then Mom and Mrs. Van Dorn come down the back stairs with the blanket, and we all follow Dad back to the front parlor, me still lugging the oscilloscope. Alicia's father studies the diagram while Dad unscrews. Hello. Sorry, I lost my spot. I'll be in the middle of page 153. Then Mom and Mrs. Van Dorn come down the back stairs with the blanket, and we all follow Dad back to the front parlor, me still lugging the oscilloscope. Alicia's father studies the diagram while Dad unscrews the metal bottom of the blanket controller. He looks up and says, Em, would you plug in the scope? So I help Mom get the cover off the oscilloscope and find the power cord. Mrs. Van Dorn says, what are you looking for, Leo? Her husband glances up from the diagram. Flaws. We want to see if this controller unit is working right, because if it's not, it could be generating an unusual field. A field? He looks back at the diagram, nodding. The electric blankets always create an electron field of some sort, because you can't run power through 10 or 12 yards of wire without causing an electromagnetic disturbance. The question is, what kind of disturbance and what magnitude? Mrs. Van Dorn nods, and I can't tell from her face if she followed all that or not. Dad's got the screws out and lifts the metal bottom off the blanket controller. Then he picks up 2 probes hooked onto wires coming from the front of the oscilloscope, a red one and a black one. He fiddles with the dial, flips some switches, pokes the pointers down into the guts of the controller, looks at the scope, looks at the diagram, frowns, and then touches something else. Except for the hum of the green cathode tube, it's quiet. Alicia says, what's going on? I whisper, my dad's poking around with these wires that are hooked to the machine I found in the basement. He's testing the electrical parts of my electric blanket control. I see Alicia's fingers tremble, sensing the tension in the room. Dad yelps and we both jump. Ha! Dad is pointing at the screen. See that? Leo squints. What? This resistor is way outside its parameters. It's letting about 6 times too much power through. Mom says, what's it mean? Not sure yet. Bobby, have you noticed this blanket being hotter than normal? Nope, works same as always. Dad makes a note on the sheet, then starts poking around again. Dad? I'm speaking softly. Yes. Dad's looking at the diagram every few seconds. So you're checking every part, like to see what's not working? Dad doesn't answer until he makes another note. Yes, looking for anything unusual. I turn to Dr. Van Dorn. And when you saw the blanket on my list, was it like the idea of force fields just jumped out at you? Alicia's dad nods, his lips pressed tightly together. His eyes don't leave the diagram, and he taps the sheet and says, get a reading on this rheostat, David. If the dial's out of alignment, that could double or triple the current getting past. Dad shakes his head. I want to check the throughput reactance first. I say, reactance? Is that like resistance? Dad shakes his head. Different principle. Then I get an idea. Hey, Dr. Van Dorn, should we check out the other stuff on my nightstand? There's an old phone, a digital alarm clock, too. I mean, they sit right there on the table, right next to the blanket controller. Do you think maybe they're throwing off the electrical fields, too? Like maybe they're affecting the blanket controller? I could run upstairs and get them. Dad, do you think we should test them, too? Neither of them answer me. I look at Dad. He squints and touches the probes to a different pair of contacts inside the controller. He glances at the diagram and says, Leo, take a look at the value of that third resistor. Is that 2 or 5? He's forgotten I'm in the room. Dad's off in science land with his pal, the professor. I feel my face getting hot, feel my jaw muscles tighten. I clench my teeth, biting back at the anger. Because inside my head, I'm yelling at them, at both of them. Hey, excuse me, who had the idea that the answer wasn't off in Theoryville? That the place to begin was at the scene of the crime. What's that? That was my idea? Well, what do you know? And guess what? If you talk and listen, maybe I have other ideas too. Or does that sound like a science fiction to such big geniuses? A minute goes by, and I've got myself back under control. I'm not shouting in my head now, but I'm thinking, who needs this? I'm supposed to just stand around and be part of their audience? I don't think so.